Hey y'all, just wanted to hop on and give you an update why I haven't been on here much. My dog has been sick, and it's been a slow thing that's come on her, and we're not really sure what's going on. So I don't think it's just old age. I think that she had something happen. I'm not sure, but she's doing better, and she's had a couple of episodes. It could be old age. I'm not sure. She's had a couple of episodes where she sort of seemed like she was having a mild stroke or seizure or something like that, and then she recovered. And then this last time was a little bit more intense, and so I've been trying to really keep a close eye on her, and so that's what I've been busy doing. But I plan on coming back to do some more videos very soon. You can see my daughter with my nail. We played nail salon, and she gave me a manicure, and just really cool looking, little cosmic looking nails. But unfortunately it was the kid polish, so it peels off really easy. But we're making beautiful memories. I hope that you are too, and that you're not getting too caught up in just all the day-to-day stresses and crap that can bring you anxiety. And that's what I wanted to talk about. So I feel like I have come to a place personally of what it truly means to be balanced just in my daily life with regards to peace versus anxiety. And I wanted to share that with you all today. So, and clearly this is unscripted, but I hope you enjoy it. So, I think I've mentioned in some past videos that when I was growing up, I had a couple of family members, adults, who were very impactful in my life, who kind of suffered from anxiety in the form of OCD, like perfectionism, and needing everything to be a certain way. And I always viewed it, I didn't have the terms to go with it as a kid, to really label it and therefore research it and understand it, obviously. And all that helps. But the way I understood it was, it seemed to me, from my point of view, that they were trying to get a grasp on what may have been an internal feeling within them where they felt like things were out of their control. And so it's like an overcompensation for some people to just grasp things so tightly that they are actually controlling, and it can just be over minor things, like if there's spots left on the dishes, or tracking in a little bit of dirt off your shoes in the house, and just things like that. So I picked up on all this. All this affected me growing up, and just witnessing how they needed these external things to be a certain way, and how it just would really dysregulate them. Now I know the terms. It would really dysregulate them if things didn't play out exactly like they had expected and wanted. And so I think that this made such an impression on me. This was not a conscious thought process I had, but I think that I did make a sort of a subconscious promise to myself that I would not suffer in that same way when I grew up. So growing up, before I really had full independence, over my life choices, growing up, my avenue for stressful situations was typically just to withdraw into my room. I'm a Cancer, my zodiac sign, and so I'm a crab, and I would withdraw from stressful situations into my room, into my shell, and I would journal. I've always journaled, and I love to read, and so I really liked scary books. And even horror, like mild horror movies growing up, I loved. But as I got older and the spiritual realm became more real to me, and I realized also how crazy the world is and some people are, how evil is true and real, I suddenly kind of didn't have that same interest in a lot of the horror movies. The ones I like now are just more about the supernatural, you might say, and mysteries with regards to that, so like myths and legends and things like that, ghosts. I like all that kind of stuff. But all the really intense kind of horror stuff, I was kind of put off by. But anyway, once I got grown up and learned evil is real, right? But growing up, I liked just the mild, I think it was called, the book series was called Fear Street by R.L. Stein. I probably read every one of those and all the other books that were similar to that. So that was one thing that I did. It was kind of an escape, and I would get totally absorbed in the stories, and I really enjoyed it. But, if you don't have healthy ways to cope with the stresses of this world, growing up, modeled to you as a child, you have to figure this stuff out on your own. So I just want to remind you, whatever you're dealing with, that maybe you just get frustrated, like, why can't I get past this, or handle this better, or it seems like other people can handle this kind of stuff better than I can. If you're frustrated with yourself in that manner, just please give yourself some grace, because other people may have had the privilege of, or the advantage of, having healthy solutions and how to get to those solutions and make them happen, modeled for them growing up, So just keep that in mind. And I think a lot of times a term that's thrown around with regards to this kind of stuff is being a generational curse breaker. In other words, you're the one who's going to finally grapple with an issue that may be, and it can be anything. It can be not handling stress well, and unhealthy coping mechanisms, and or addictions, or it can be anything that, is passed down from generation to generation because nobody either tries or has the faith in putting the effort into breaking these unhealthy patterns, or they just, for whatever reason, it just doesn't happen. So if you are putting forth a genuine effort to do so, that's great. That's a wonderful thing. But just give yourself some grace, What is that old quote? Comparison is the thief of joy, Everybody's walking their own path. And so I just wanted to say that. But as far as dealing with stresses and how I feel like I have come to a place of where I feel good, for me, it has been a place of self-evaluation, trying to find any old tendencies that were similar to the unhealthy coping mechanisms modeled to me as a kid in needing control over everything, like OCD type stuff, and needing everything to be a certain way and everyone to be a certain way and all that. It's like learning to identify that stuff within myself, and it means recalling instances involving others where, and even just paying attention in present day, looking externally and utilizing the external and other people and their behaviors as a mirror. In other words, learning what things to look out for by observing others, and then taking that as sort of a lens to look at yourself and say, where am I doing those same things? Where am I handling things the same way? And then you can learn to catch yourself, to intercept yourself in the midst of that, and to kind of loosen your grasp and to be okay with things not exactly meeting your expectations. And here's the inspirational part of my message, okay? I think you reach a certain point in life where all these old, worn out sayings kind of just are off-putting to you. And so, kind of like que sera, sera, what will be, the future's not ours to see, and just so many things, songs and sayings and old wives' tales, and which I think there's some value there. There's a lot of value in all that. But you just get to a place where nothing's working. And so when you hear these worn out sayings and stuff, that it's just kind of rubs you the wrong way. But the truth is, and I don't have a clever saying for you, that's the thing. I just have my experience. I have learned, and this is modeled for us in all these old fairy tales and even in modern day movies too. If we can pay attention to them in a certain way, we can see these parallels between the old fairy tales and folklore that have like a core story and plot to them. We can see that just replayed over and over, cyclically in all of these movies, modern day movies. And we can draw those correlations and parallels and see that it's kind of like, almost like one big story, and just different ways, different approaches to experiencing it and witnessing it and all this. In these stories, like I've talked about many times on my channel, and the one I've even shared certain ones with you. I got paranoid. I heard something behind me in the woods, but I think it was my own feet down here with the leaves, y'all. But there's always helpers. There's always helpers. And the helpers in these stories are typically mysterious, kind of like those kind of scary movies I like, today. They are, in other words, numinous. They have a numinous quality, an angelic quality, another quality like from another realm. And they usually have a very subtle role. They might pop in just briefly in the story, for example. But if you pay attention, they are like the catalyst that completely wind up changing the outcome of the story. And typically the outcome is changed in favor of the main character, the hero, the one who's struggling. So that's the magic of loosening your grip on the false illusion of control over anything in your life, whether it's on the micro or the macro or whatever. When you loosen your grip, it's an act of faith, because you are opening a portal, if you want to use that lens. You're opening a pathway for the numinous to do some work in your life. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of like God saying, and I'm sure there's verses to support this. This will be a fun rabbit hole to go down. It's like God saying, okay, well, you're handling this, it seems. I see that you're handling this, so I'll just let you go ahead. But, I'll be here when you need me. And so when you can consciously let go and be uncomfortable with things being uncertain, not completely 100% meeting your expectations right then and all this stuff, again, it leaves room for the numinous. And we see that these awesome stories played out for us in these old folklore, fairy tales, legends and all is like a pattern. It's like a deeper truth that we can experience directly in our own life. But it is an act of faith. It's an act of faith. It comes down to saying, you know what? If this situation pops up unexpectedly, and in the past, maybe I've always been really triggered by it because I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't have the skill set to handle it. I was never taught, and I'm still struggling, and I can't figure it out. and all this stuff, it's kind of like saying to yourself, and I'm speaking from personal experience, it's like saying to yourself, well, you know what? Even if it does happen, I'm just going to be like, okay, whatever. It's a matter of caring sometimes too much about something when really, in the big scheme of things, it's really not that big a deal. It's just that you may have some automatic conditioning where you unintentionally, automatically, unconsciously perceive things to be a bigger deal than what they are. And this may be because, if you want to dig deeper, you're using control, in my example of like OCD perfectionism, right? You might be using control as a mechanism for a feeling of being out of control, because maybe you experienced something, or maybe an ongoing way of life of truly being out of control. It's like a compensation, a compensatory, if that's even a word, type coping mechanism, but it's not healthy and it's not fruitful in your life. In fact, it may even be making things turn out in the opposite direction of what you would like. It's kind of like operating, and you don't realize it or perceive it this way, it's kind of like operating from convenience when we don't truly, I hate to say this phrase, but do the work long enough, and it can take years and years. Then it's kind of like we're just operating from convenience. I remember the Jetsons had like this. That's how old I am now. I'm dating myself. And that old cartoon, you know, they're supposedly from the future or whatnot, but they had like this robot maid. I think her name was Rosie, and they had, I think for their meals, if I'm not mistaken, I think their meals were just like in pill form. And I think you would pop the pill in the microwave for 1 second or something, and it would just, you know, expand out into this instant meal or something like that. I don't know. But I actually bought, and the reason I was reminded of that earlier today is because I bought these tablets, these high calorie tablets that are like survival tablets. I think they're called survival tabs or something. And I like to be prepared, you know, at least a little bit for emergencies and stuff like that. So I was thinking about, I wonder how old those are now. I may need to replace them. But you want them to stay in storage. You don't want to ever have to actually use them, take them out of the box and all that stuff. But it's kind of like it gives you peace of mind to know they're there, right? So that's the thing. We need to operate in that manner, doing what we can, having those baseline ways of operating figured out. Like, okay, I know that if XYZ happens, it's going to make me feel like I'm unprepared and I don't know what to do. So I'm going to have a plan of doing XYZ. And if you let your anxiety take it from there, then you can spiral and say, well, then what? Well, what if after that this happens? Or what if after that happens? This is where faith kicks in. It's like, this is my game plan for operating so that I don't revert back to these unhealthy ways that were modeled to me, okay? My game plan is, I've spent a lot of time researching and looking at myself and doing all the work to realize if I have my emergency tabs in all areas of my life, that especially the ones that have formerly stressed me out a lot. In other words, I have those baseline steps I'm going to take if something happens. Then I can take them. And then from there, it's faith. It's kind of like you did your part, and there's a subconscious understanding, I think, that if you just do that, you just take that first step. It's kind of like somewhere in your psyche, you've checked a box, you've ticked a box to tell yourself it's not like you just threw your hands up and ran or you reacted poorly or anything. It's like you did it. You accomplished it. And then from there, it's like easy to ease into letting it go because you've already done it. You've already done your part. You see what I'm saying? And then the next part is where it's cool to just watch it get worked out right in front of your own eyes. And you're like, how did that happen? You know, the person just suddenly wasn't mad anymore, or the conversation just took a turn that was beneficial for all of us, or the person just went away, or the bad situation went away. I mean, like walked away or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, it depends. There's millions of possibilities, examples where we could apply this logic. So I haven't thought through several different examples to give you, but hopefully you can kind of apply this mindset to your own life. Whatever things that may stress you out, that you may kind of be apprehensive about because you feel like they're out of your control. Just have a plan for 1 or 2 steps that you're going to take. Feel good about it. Feel really, really sure about it. So that when the unexpected happens, take that step and then let it go. And then experience the numinosity that's not only in these fairy tales, but also in our lives. So I hope you guys really enjoyed that message today. And I just thank you so much for coming on to hear it. I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you again very soon.